the very source that you cite, and by the way, I'll make all of mine publicly available. Hold on, I'm finishing now. Let's do it like grown-ups. You can cite your sources online. George Floyd riots, not included. Daryl Brooks, Waukesha,
question.
Not included. Antifa, not included. Man shot dead for voting Trump, not included. Those numbers are not to be trusted, and neither is someone parroting it. I'll answer your question if you answer one of mine after.
So Steven Crowder sat down with Piers Morgan on Piers Morgan Uncensored, and he went head to head with Joe Walsh. And let me tell you, it did not disappoint. These two got into it, like really got into it. And Crowder was firing on all cylinders the whole time. Yet Walsh didn't really have an answer for half of what Crowder was throwing at him, honestly. If you ask me, it wasn't even close. Crowder came in prepared and Walsh just couldn't keep up. This clip from Piers Morgan Uncensored is one you genuinely don't want to sleep on, so let's just get right into it.
Polls has been presented as violence, including silence, by the way. I know there's a poster behind Joe Walsh right next to his No Kings poster. In other words, if you're pro-life, it's violence against women. If you're against men and women's sports, it's violence against trans, it's genocide, it's erasing them. If you're against Juneteenth as a holiday, it's violence. You're pro-First Amendment, violence because you're inciting violence. You're pro-Second Amendment, violence because you believe people should be able to commit gun violence. And then if we remain silent, that's also violence. And so people deal with the right with violence. Here's my challenge. Find me one example of a Charlie Kirk on the left, not an elected official. I'll allow any speaker, any comedian this century, one example of somebody who was murdered, assassinated, hemorrhaged out in front of his family in cold blood and gleefully celebrated thereafter. And the polls show that a majority, according to YouGov recently, of Democrats think it's somewhat too acceptable. 38%, 77% of Republicans said not acceptable at all.
Okay, let Joe
respond. What I'm saying is that Charlie Kirk was hunted. He was hunted. We are being hunted, and I don't want to see any more dead friends. Violence, absolutely. Lawful, ruthless, defensive violence.
Okay, Joe.
Pierce, I'll just be brief again. The data is pretty clear, and historically it's been pretty clear that there's political violence on the right and the left in this country for years. And I could argue, and I would argue, but I won't here, that there's historically been more political violence coming from the right. But suffice to say, I think you and I, Pierce, would agree, there's a history of, hey, Stephen, let me finish, man, please.
Please argue it. You can't just make a vague claim and not substantiate it.
Pierce, you and I would agree, for the sake of this conversation, that political violence is in fact a both sides problem. Stephen, you would acknowledge, I think, that there is political violence on, and there has been political violence on the right as well. So why don't we all just condemn it all? That's what we all should do.
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't agree with the premise, and I'm having to agree with a nebulous premise because you presented no facts. The very source that you cite, and by the way, I'll make all of mine publicly available. Hold on, I'm finishing now. Let's do it like grown-ups. You can cite your sources online. George Floyd riots, not included. Daryl Brooks, Waukesha.
One question.
Not included. Antifa, not included. Man shot dead for voting Trump, not included. Those numbers are not to be trusted, and neither is someone parroting it. I'll answer your question if you answer one of mine after. Go ahead, please.
Melissa Hortman, the Democratic state legislator in Minnesota, 3 months ago, gunned down by an anti-abortion Trump supporter. Yes or no?
Wrong. How do I know? Because Vance Bolter, the man who did it, wrote in his letter that it had nothing to do with Trump or being pro-life. He blamed Tim Walz. And here's what you also don't see. Did you see anyone at the Hortman's funerals or vigils spitting on them or pantomiming being shot in the neck? Did you see anyone celebrating the death of them gleefully?
Yes.
Did you see so many professors doing so, showing children a snuff? Really? Point me to one.
Yes.
Point me to one person spitting at their vigil. Let me guess, you're going to go to Mike Lee?
Utah
How do I predict everything you say all the time? How?
Donald Trump.
He didn't mock the attack.
Honestly, the guy looks completely flustered out there. And look, I'm not trying to pile on, but it's just hard to watch someone get taken apart like that in real time. And here's the thing that genuinely gets me. Why is it so hard for some people to just be honest about this? Because what Crowder is pointing out is pretty straightforward when you actually look at the facts. Think about it. When Joe Biden got his cancer diagnosis, that's devastating news for any human being, right? And yeah, maybe some random people online said something ugly, but prominent voices on the right, Crowder, people like that, it was condolences. It was thoughts and prayers. Nobody was popping champagne over that. Now flip it around. When something bad happens to someone on the right, and I mean really bad, like a near assassination, there were actual prominent left-wing figures who basically shrugged and said they had it coming. Destiny pretty much implied that if you're at a Trump rally and you get shot, that's on you. Hassan Piker, same energy. These aren't random trolls in comment sections. These are people with massive platforms. Real people died that day at that rally. Let that sink in. And some folks with huge audiences were out here acting like it was deserved. That contrast is just stark, man. And I genuinely don't think it's that complicated to acknowledge. So I'm curious, drop it in the comments. Am I missing something here? Because from where I'm sitting, Crowder is making a pretty solid point, and Walsh just doesn't have a good answer for it.
Stephen, let me jump in.
Celebrate the
Stephen,
murder?
let me give you an example.
Pierce, I don't.
Hang on.
Go ahead, Pierce.
Hang on. I would give an example where the right behaved very badly, and that was over the attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband. I saw the gleeful responses after that from the right, the memes, the mockery, and so on. I thought that was very distasteful. Would you agree, Stephen?
If you want to argue an equivalency between a man getting
I'm not
hit with a
asking
hammer in his
equivalency.
underwear
I'm not saying
and a
equivalent.
man bleeding out in front of his child,
I'm not
go
saying
ahead.
they're equivocal. I'm just saying it's an example where I felt people on the right showed a complete lack of humanity towards the man who'd been attacked because he happened to be married to Nancy Pelosi, a political opponent. And so it's not like this never. It's not like this has never happened.
I don't agree. I don't think it's even remotely proportional. Let me ask a question here. This is why I'm giving this message, and this is why I hope people listen and protect their own. Joe Walsh, you're there. Since I answered your question, you're there, Utah, in the crowd. It's not a mouser. It's not a 30-6. But it's a man winding up a milkshake for Charlie Kirk. We don't know if it's strawberry, chocolate, vanilla, acid, or concrete. Do you stop him? Do you hurt him? That hesitation tells me that you are not amongst us.
Hey,
and cowards are dangerous to have in their ranks.
Stephen,
because it's not a hypothetical. It's happened.
Let me answer your question.
Do you stop him? Do you hurt him?
I don't understand your question. I'm sorry. I honestly, I don't.
Someone winding up a milkshake to launch at Charlie Kirk. You don't know if it's strawberry, chocolate, vanilla, acid, or concrete. You see him before anyone else does. Do you stop him and hurt him?
Yes. I certainly stop him. I do all I can to stop him. Yes.
Good. There's a start. That's what I'm advocating. Every single person out there, because we have been living with this shadow over us. And I know, look, here's the thing too, Joe. I understand your rhetoric. I understand where you're coming from. And I know that you met Charlie when he was 16, as I understand it, right? He was very, very young. And I understand that maybe you were somewhat of a mentor figure. It's because of the failure of Republicans like you that me and Charlie Kirk exist, who are willing to take back the territory that has been conceded, and we are willing to pay with our lives. We shouldn't have to be. Academia, media, the press, big tech shouldn't be dominated by the left exclusively all the time. Charlie Kirk shouldn't be out there alone, sitting in that chair, taking on all comers. He shouldn't be inspired by people like me, who are comedians. He should have been inspired by people like you. Instead, he was inspired to go the other way. Maybe that's why he said he sold his soul for Donald Trump before the body was cold. Still want to do the no true Scotsman holier than thou thing?
And Stephen, I'm assuming you would do the same, correct? If somebody were throwing a chocolate milkshake at a left-wing speaker, correct?
No, the reason I bring it up is because we didn't. We didn't,
but
and I've had them launched at me.
Would you, Stephen?
And the reason,
would you?
No, I didn't.
Would you?
And now I would. Now
would
I would.
You?
Because now I would. Yes. Have I answered your question? Yes. Now I would, and I advocate that everybody else do the same by any means necessary.
So Stephen, common ground. You and I, two Americans, would both stop any politically violent attack on any public figure or speaker that we saw. You and I agree to that. And you and I hope, would both agree that we should condemn all political violence. End of story.
I am condemning, of course, all political violence. It is coming from one side, and the prescription is ruthless, aggressive, defensive, lawful violence on anyone who tries.
And that right there, that exchange, that's really where Crowder just locked it in. Because Walsh tries to pull that classic move, right? He goes, okay, do you condemn political violence on both sides? And Crowder doesn't even flinch. He goes, absolutely. All day. Every side, no exceptions. But here's where it gets real. Crowder basically says, look, I'm not choosing to only criticize the left. It just so happens that every single example I can point to is coming from that direction. That's not bias. That's just the record. And if tomorrow someone on the right did something like that, he'd call it out just the same. That's a pretty reasonable position when you think about it. Like, what do you want the guy to do? Make up examples that don't exist just to seem balanced? That's not how it works. Nobody on the right was behind what happened at that Trump rally. Nobody on the right took a shot at their own political opponents. And when bad things do happen to people on the left, the right's response is pretty much silence or sympathy, not a party. Now, sure, the other side will dig through Twitter and find some random account with 47 followers saying something terrible and go, see? But that's not the same as prominent voices with millions of followers pushing that narrative. There's a real difference there. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys thought about this whole Crowder versus Walsh showdown on Piers Morgan Uncensored, because it really did get intense. Walsh just looked worn down by the end of it, honestly. Like a guy who showed up to a debate and realized halfway through he didn't bring enough ammo. Drop your thoughts below. Would love to hear where you guys land on this one.